Strident, and I'm here with Agent O.
What's up?
And we just want to give you guys another, I guess this will be an Off Our Brains. The first part is going to just be me and him, talking about a bunch of different subjects. And then the second half will be me and ODC talking about Toy Fair 2016, New York Toy Fair 2016, because we gathered up a whole bunch of pictures of, figures and shit that we're like really interested in seeing, and we've got some shit to say about that. But anyway, we are going to talk about, I guess first we can talk about some shit that's going on right now, and then we'll go into the other stuff. But the first thing is this stupid shit with the Fine Brothers and the trademarking React videos, like the format. So a lot of people are pissed about it. A lot of people think they're stupid. I think they're stupid too, but at the same time,
Very stupid.
At the same time, it's one of those things like Coke and Pepsi. Like if you're creative enough, you could still do it and then have your own, your own format, your own way of doing it without copying off of them. Because the problem with YouTube is that everybody just does the same thing that the problem with America, I guess. A lot of people just do what the last successful person did, and they try to copy it verbatim instead of putting their own spin on it. And if they put their own spin on it, you might be even more successful. But everybody on YouTube, well, not everybody, but a lot, the majority, they seem lazy because they just bite verbatim, like all the Let's Plays, where they do exactly the same thing, same timing on their jokes, the same type of reactions. They play the same exact games instead of playing a game that's similar, but has its own, pluses and minuses and shit, reviews. You look at the way people do reviews, and a lot of them just copy off of the way the last guy did it. And it's usually like they pick the easiest way to do it instead of putting in the extra work and doing their own thing, So
like how everybody was doing the whole, they'd be talking and they'd be cutting every 2 seconds because nobody can speak in one complete thought.
The weird ADD editing, that bullshit is
that YouTube
annoying.
Jump cutting.
Exactly, it's fucking annoying, but everyone does it, and nobody uses their own approach, and they should. So I don't know. I have problems with all the complaining about the way they did it, but I will say it is fucking stupid for you to try and copyright a format. Like that's almost as dumb as Marvel copywriting the X. You try and tell me if I put an X in something, like if I named my son Xavier, now I got to pay Marvel? That's just stupid. So it doesn't surprise me that people are unsubscribing like crazy, and they're losing a whole lot of traction because of this stupid ass decision.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of the videos about it that people were commenting on. I just read an article. I didn't even watch the video they did explaining it because
it was bullshit.
The idea of it is so dumb. Like, 2 Girls, 1 Cup is like the of reaction videos, and nobody decided to put a format on that. Like, if anything, you were biting off of them.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
How could the Fine Brothers turn around and sit there? I mean, I can understand if somebody was ripping off your motion graphics, because I know they were complaining about that.
Yeah.
But if I can look at it's like Photoshop. Like the best people that use Photoshop are the ones where you can't tell what all they did to get the result, to get to their end result. But if I can look at your motion graphics for your reaction videos and figure out which tools and filters and whatnot you use, then A, you didn't do a good enough job to hide your shit, and B,
or to put your own stamp on
it. Yeah. It's not a style of your own, because if you're using the Gaussian blur in your
lens flare,
part of or lens flare as part of your motion graphics, then you didn't do a good job anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just so much. The fact that their format isn't even anything new.
Yeah.
It's just the way you do it, but it's all based on shit that already exists. Like I was watching a video where somebody was talking about if somebody put a copyright on the way they do their talk show, and I was thinking to myself, but the way they do their talk show is exactly the same as something else. Mm-hmm. They just, it's like somebody sits in a panel with several other people, they bring up a subject, and then everybody comments about it. Mm-hmm. That's the fucking view. That's the fucking talk.
Yeah.
That's, that's so many different shows. So
yeah,
what the Fine Brothers were doing was
It's underhanded
greedy.
as fuck.
It's just greedy.
Yeah.
It's greed, man.
Yeah. But like I said though, it's YouTube. It's the fucked up part about it is that like YouTube is supposed to be like us showing off what we not off, but sharing what we think and what we feel. I mean, already it's bad enough you got corporations that have siphoned all the originality and fun out of YouTube, you know? But like now you have them setting the stage for a lot of things, and then you have this group that used to be fucking regular YouTubers trying to be all corporate and shit. And it's like, that's not YouTube. And the fucked up part is that since Google owns YouTube, they just sit back and they let YouTube kind of govern itself. So like fucked up things are happening, but the people who the system was created for are not really benefiting from this shit. You know, you should be able to post whatever the fuck you want to post. You should be, I mean, within reason. Like if it's your son or your daughter's birthday, you know, you want to post their reaction to the presents you got them, or like the party that they didn't know they were going to have. Like, it's a reaction thing. It's part of life. How the fuck do you just come in and say, hey, guess what? You owe me money now. Like, you can lick the back of my ball sack. Like, that's my child. That's something I put together and I'm doing the work. You don't get to take the money from that. But YouTube has been, like, kind of twisted into that kind of a thing. And it kind of sucks. It really sucks. I mean, like, all the false flaggings that have been going on. Have you heard about that shit? Like, in the last, like, I don't know.
What, people are flagging other people's stuff?
No, the bots are flagging things. For the sake of flagging, taking down videos, the whole nine, and not giving people any type of explanation. And then when someone finally gets to it, your channel will just show back up, and they don't tell you what they did. They don't tell you why they took it down. It's just like you were punished. And during the time that it's down, while there's a claim, you don't get money for anything. Everything's frozen. So whoever, like, say you filed a claim on me for something, you would get that money during the time that your claim is up, and I'd just be asked out, even if it's a false claim. Like, there's a dude who, if you use video game music, I forgot the guy's name, but you could easily find this guy. If you put in how to deal with a false content ID claim, it'll be one of the first videos that comes up. There's this one guy, he goes around, he did it on one of mine, and I just took down the video. I was like, fuck it. And then I put it back up with different music. If you put video game music in your video, he will try to put a content ID claim on your video. Most times, people don't fight him, so he wins. Even though he's not the studio that owns the shit. And all you have to do is just click on his information, look up the name, and you'll find out he doesn't own the music for Sonic the Hedgehog, or he doesn't own the music for some shit that was before.
So this is like some troll doing this?
Pretty much.
Wow.
So there was a guy who, I should have thought about this beforehand, but I didn't even think about this particular part until just now. But there's a video on YouTube with a guy who points out how many times he fought the guy. He fights him and fights him and fights him, and every time he gets to one before the final thing, the guy will withdraw. So he doesn't expect you to actually fight him, but he's going to take you almost to the end. And then when you get to the end, where they're about to call in the courts, he backs off. And so you continue to have your, your monetization. And there's other people that do it. There's companies that do this shit. They're false-ass companies. Angry Joe talked about this.
Yeah.
Fake companies that do this shit. And then YouTube or Google, with all their infinite wisdom, is doing nothing to even deal with this. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, if the you in YouTube is us, then what the fuck? We have no power when it comes to this. And it doesn't really make sense that that's how it is. I mean, there's people that make their living off of YouTube. Like, legit living. Like, not people that are, trying to get over on folks. So it's kind of fucked up that Google hasn't really put much in place. And then I heard from the Nostalgia Critic. He said that after he went through a couple weeks of this kind of shit, because they took down his channel and did all kinds of stuff for some of his videos and stuff, they gave him a did they call it like an assistant or something, like a content management, somebody that will oversee or that he can talk to if he has issues with this kind of shit. It's like, why isn't that person in place to begin with? That would make sense. But I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't even know about any of that.
But anyway, that whole thing sucks. It's pretty stupid. I wish they actually would do something substantial about all that, because there's a lot of people who are getting screwed over, and it shouldn't be that way.
Not to mention, back with the Fine Brothers, if you go back to, if they say their copyright had went through and everything, like, bigger companies could then possibly come after them.
Didn't it work?
And say, I think they did do the copyright or whatever, but other companies that have more money and power than them could say, well, you're using our format, or you're using part of, the format that we've had for such and such shows. So now you have to pay us, or you need to cease and desist. Like they're opened up a can of worms that I don't think they had any idea what they were doing.
They did.
I'm talking about like the repercussions. Of what they were trying to do.
They thought that in the world where like people are copywriting all kinds of YouTube shit, and like these MCNs and all these other companies are getting in and getting like a huge fucking cut. Because I think Let's Plays have been something that for a long time has been copywritten. That's why now they can't. People will say, like, two friends play blah blah blah, or so and so plays such and such, because somebody, I can't remember
the name,
the Let's Play, that title.
Yeah.
So I can't remember who it was that did it, because I remember when it happened, it was a big thing for people like Angry Joe and people like PewDiePie. It might have even been him. I can't remember, but I don't know. It's just stupid. This shouldn't be so corporate. You know what I mean? It's like they just let that shit get out of hand, and that's why things are the way they are, and it's just not. I don't know. It's not that good.
I mean, the fact that they wanted, I don't know, the fact they wanted to copyright something that they themselves jacked.
I know,
is
right?
Beyond me.
It's America. It's America in a nutshell. Good God. What else? Marvel Legends. Okay, so I'm not going to be completely negative, because I did pick up a Marvel Legend. Actually, I've acquired two newer Marvel Legends in the last like 4 or 5 months, something like that. My wife got me the Wasp, which is not horrible. Mine had decent eyes, but the paint on her body is pretty shitty. And she only has like two applications on her body. And I'm like, no. How do you mess that up? And then the other one was Taskmaster, which I picked up the other day because I like Taskmaster, and I could never find the classic version. And this new one fits the version I like better. I liked him best in the Udon comic, where him and Deadpool were kind of like, comedy and straight man, like the goofy dude, the straight man, and he was the straight man, and it just worked better. But he was more interesting than Deadpool even in that.
Yeah.
Yet Deadpool gets, all this attention and all this shit. But anyway, the point was, a lot of times I point out stuff that's wrong with Marvel Legends, and then I fight with folks sometimes in the comments, because they're still trying to convince me that the figures they're better than what I'm saying. Realistically, and I figured it out, and I think I've said it before, we've all probably said it before, people get happy because your character of choice has been represented, not because of the quality of the figure that you got. And I think Hasbro realizes this. This is why the figure's quality just keeps on plummeting, because they're like, you're going to buy it anyway because it's a character you want to see. So they make you hold out. It's like it's like drug dealing. Like, they're trying to get you hooked. So they give you some real good examples, and you're like, damn, this is good. This is good. I want more. Then they disappear, and you're like, wait, what happened? And then you're waiting and you're waiting. I need it. I need that fix, And then finally, they give you that fix, and the fix is lower quality, but because you waited so long, you're like, holy shit, this is all. I want this. So I noticed that that's one of the things, and people argue the point, and it's the truth. They just don't want to admit it because you've already been doing this for so long. Like, I wanted Taskmaster because I like the character, and I love this design, and the fact that he came with the Udon-style head, I was like, yes, I'm going to pick this up. And when I saw it, I was like, damn, that actually looks pretty good, so I picked it up. Then I opened the package, I played with him, and I'm like, this is not really that good. Like, the figure... There are so many things that are just not right. Like, he comes with a sword. You can't make him hold the sword with two hands.
Oh, really?
In a decent way, because... He's got those old school Marvel Legends shoulders that don't have the butterfly joint. So his arms can hardly go. I mean, you could bend him at the elbow so you can hold him close to his face.
Yeah.
But like he can't do anything. You can't put him in a two-handed slice.
Trying to get sight beyond sight.
Yeah, pretty much. So I was like, okay, strike one. Strike two. He's got the shoulder holsters that Baron Zemo had with the two guns on them. Can't take the guns out of the holsters. Still. Strike three. Taskmaster's a master of all kinds of weapons. They only gave him the sword and the shield. That's it. And then he comes with 3 heads. The Red Skull head or Red Onslaught head. A semi, like, neoclassic Taskmaster head, except it's a metal skull instead of a realistic skull. And then there's the Udon head. So it's like, wait, this is a guy who uses swords, bows and arrows, knives, guns, all kinds of shit that they have already sculpted, and you can just throw a couple of those in the package for us, you know? You can make the pistols on his shoulder holsters removable. You can give him a little bit more of a range, like scoop out the shoulder a little bit more so that he would have the range of motion so he actually looks like he's copying things that other characters could do.
That would require work.
Exactly, and they don't do it, you know? Meanwhile, NECA, I've reviewed a shitload of NECA figures, and every single one of them, they do things to kind of allow for the character or the figure to do what that character does. Like my John Matrix figure from Commando, he can hold every gun he comes with properly. You know what I mean? I have no issues. My Ultimate T-800, same situation. Even the positioning of his hands is exactly how Arnold positioned his hands when he was shooting his freaking lever action Winchester. Like, there's like detail, attention to detail, and then there's just slop. And the Legends constantly give us slop and then raise the price. So, like, that's why I diss them so much. And I said I was done getting them. And I think what I should say is, overall, I am done. I think I want to see what Rogue is like. And maybe Rogue will be the last one, unless they make a Jim Lee Cyclops. If they make a Jim Lee Cyclops, that'll be my final Marvel Legend ever. Unless they go and they make the entire roster of the 90s X-Men. Then I might go back and have to get them.
Yeah, I still want a Professor X in the gold hover chair.
Me too. So yeah, I don't know. That's what I feel. And like when I think about like a wave of Legends costs roughly, I don't know, 120 something, 130. But then they'll usually be like 6 of the 8 figures that you don't even give a shit about. Like, if you're honest, nobody wanted a fucking Whirlwind figure, not a classic Whirlwind. Like,
nobody wanted Cottonmouth.
Yeah, like, get the fuck out of here. I'm not even going to sit here and believe that the Serpent Society, it's a team of bad guys that show up to get their asses whooped on a regular basis. Most of you can't even name a couple stories. And don't go in the comments after you look at Wikipedia
no.
and then try to sound smart and put that shit in there. Most of you don't even know. You can't even list all the members of the fucking Serpent Society because they're not, like, important in the grand scheme of things, but you're going to pretend like you wanted that figure? Come on, man. They're playing off the fact that most of the people who are getting this, you have a compulsion and you want to just complete the line. You don't necessarily give a shit about the individual characters. I give a shit about the characters that I want to get, so I only cherry pick the guys that I remember from comics I actually read and that I liked.
There's some people, too, who also run out and buy any Marvel Legends that has their super classic, I'm talking really old costumes that really are kind of ugly now. They just didn't stand the test of time, but for whatever reason, there's some people that really want that look for all their Marvel Legends, and I don't get that either. But to each their own.
Yeah, to each their. At least I can respect that you actually have a connection to that particular era. So everything in that era, that's what it suits your fancy. You're not buying everything just because. I'm tired of hearing the arguments because I like on Facebook all the time on all these pages. I see them argue about which costume was which and who is what and who belongs to what, and people don't know. I've seen so many arguments where it's like people really have no idea. And there's always the one guy who's the most rude motherfucker in the group that's attacking everyone else and has the least knowledge of what's going on with these characters. Like all the folks who had no idea about Cap Wolf until that toy was released, then they all went back and got it. It's like, yeah, no. And the figure's not even like super perfect. He doesn't have chainmail. Even in the 90s, Cap had chainmail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they could, even the first Marvel Legends Cap, they did a tampo of chainmail. They didn't do sculpted chainmail. So if you didn't want to sculpt the shit, you could at least tampo it on. They didn't even do that. So like there's so many little things about the way that they handle these. They gave him the cheapo shield that's completely smooth, no sculpted detail, when they've already made a, and it's smaller. They've already made a full size for your 6-inch caps shield that has all the sculpted detail, and all they would have to do is reuse that mold and just continue on what they've been doing. Instead, they sculpted a new one or created a new mold with no surface detail, all paint. What the why waste the resources or the time or undoing what you already did? It's just shit like that is what I'm not interested in. So like personally, that's why I diss them so hard, and I've been making effort not to really call them out much because, like I said, the beginning of I think it was last year, I made that switch to only reviewing shit I like I really like. Every now and then,
call them out.
Yeah. Well, every now and then, like one like when I review Taskmaster because I love the character. I think he has an awesome idea. It's okay. I'll get it for you. I have he's a character I really like, so I'm gonna here. Put on this side. He's a character I really like, so I'm gonna review the figure, but I'm not gonna really review Legends a lot. I mean, I really don't have any ones that I want to review. I have old ones I'll review, but yeah, overall, nothing anyone is going to tell me in the comments is going to change my mind. Paint always sucks. I mean, you could go and watch other people's reviews on them. There's like this select few that nothing Hasbro does ever makes them bothered. It never hurts their feelings. It never makes them feel like they've been cheated. But then there's other people like, Bobby Skullface, freaking Raphael Sehaman. There's a bunch of them that like, Agent O does it too. He'll review them because he's like hoping it's good, and then he'll see like, no, it's not so good, and these are reasons why it's not good. That's the way you review a figure. I mean, you've already bought it, so you own it. You already put in the work. The least you can do is be like, this is what I like and this is what I don't like. This is what's successful, this is what's not successful, which means you actually interact with your fucking figures. Too many of the reviewers don't. Anthony's Customs, he buys them so that he can either customize them or put them in a box somewhere, and then when he does his little review where he shows you where he keeps everything, it's all in a box. Like, I'm not saying you have to have the time to play with it, but I'm saying other than buying it for the sake of a review, at least know what you're getting, know the quality, at least know how everything works. I guess maybe, but if you take it apart a couple times, you'll know what they're capable of, but you can't give them a pass all the time, and that's too much of what happens, and that all adds to why I'm just like, fuck Marvel Legends. I can't do it. So that's one of the things that's going on with me as far as Marvel Legends. What about you?
I'm in the same boat. Like what you said about Taskmaster is the exact reason why I didn't pick up the toy, because I was looking at it at the store and I was just like, oh my god, I want to buy this. Then as soon as I take it out, I know I'm just going to be full of disappointment. Yeah. So I just left it on the shelf.
Yeah, I folded, man. That day I folded hard. I bought I picked up the Mattel, and Mattel's guilty of this shit too. So don't think I'm just saying it because I'm a DC fan. I folded and I got Taskmaster, Batman vs. Superman, Batfleck, and then the Batmobile. The Batmobile's not horrible. It just has the oversight on the front, and I don't like that, but whatever. All the Batmobiles have something to let you know it's a toy. But then Batfleck, it's like his sculpt. They sculpted him in a weird pose where his feet are not straight, pointing in front of him. So when you stand him up, you always got to have the legs at an angle. The kids love muscles. So to make him bigger and more imposing than Superman, he's too... I mean, it looks good by himself. But then when you see him next to other figures, it's like his shoulders are fucking huge. He can barely fit in the Batmobile right. You have to turn him at an angle to put him in and then sit him back because his shoulders are too broad to actually go into the cockpit the way that he should. It's just like there's so many little things like the elbow joint, the piece that slots into the forearm is not painted black like the rest of the glove, though almost the entire forearm is black. But the piece going into the forearm, cutting through the glove, is gray, like the upper portion of his arm. And it's like, you guys are lazy. Your job is to make action figures. The least you can do is make them right. It's simple. You know what I mean? It's so simple because this is all you do. So the fact that there's customizers out there that can make your figures look like $1 million and you guys don't do it for a living, like it's your job that you do for a living and you can't do better than them, that's a shame. That should never be. So I don't know. It's strange to me, and I call him out. You know, that figure, I put a custom cape on him, and it helped. And I gave him more stubble and shit to make him look a little bit more realistic and more like the film. But it's still kind of a crappy figure. You know, like, I mean, it's durable. I'll give him that. It probably would be.
You'll be able to toss that bastard around. And it's gonna survive everything.
Yeah, so like
I picked it up and I was like, damn, this is a thick ass piece of plastic right here.
Yeah, they got that off. So like, you know, if you have him standing still somewhere, he's gonna look awesome. The minute you turn that thigh swivel and you try to pose him, good God. I'm like, whoa, this is some shitty engineering here. And people aren't saying it. Like, you can say you like the figure because you like the look of the character and such, and I respect that. Everyone has their own opinion. But, you know, call a spade a spade. Like, if you can't pose him convincingly, the figure sucks. He doesn't have fucking ankle pivot or ball-jointed ankles so that when you put him standing in a semi-wide-legged pose, his feet are planted on the ground. I mean, he's Batman. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He can't throw a kick properly because the legs, they sculpted them in a way that he can't really do a split. Like, how do I put it? He can do a split from certain angles, but not from, you know, the angles that really count.
Yeah, I kind of chalk that figure up as it's a figure you buy for your kid and you let him play it, and it has just enough articulation for them to act out certain things, but it's definitely not a collector's figure.
I know, despite what they said, and it was on sale. I got him for like $12 or $13 at Toys R Us. So I was like, score! I've been fiending, and I'm looking at all the stuff that's coming, and I'm like, it's gonna take a while. I mean, we're gonna be waiting a long time for figures, like quality figures, unless the DC Collectibles ones are about to drop, which I don't know when they drop. We're gonna talk about that stuff more when me and ODC go over the Toy Fair stuff, but yeah, it's just it's the whole concept of quality, you know, like what counts as quality to you. You know, some people don't get it, some people don't care, some people just, you know, they get shit because they have to get shit. They don't get it because there's like they're not measuring what they're gonna get. They just want to get something because that's what they do. You know, consumerism, just pure consumerism. I'm not a pure consumer. Like, I see an end point to my collections. The prices are going up. They're getting to a point where the price versus the quality of what you get just doesn't make sense. You know, how am I going to pay over $20 and not even get like the iconic weaponry or, you know, accessory that goes with my, you know, character? It's like getting a Thor figure with no hammer. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Or a Captain America with no shield. Like, that, and that's where we're going. It's getting to the point where they're just not giving us shit, you know? Batman figures with no batarangs, no grapple gun, no nothing. And then you watch the movie or you watch the show, and he always has a grapple gun, a different one depending on what the continuity is or what the design is. And you're just not getting that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm not paying into that, you know? I can't do that. I need to get my stuff. Like,
yeah, I've almost gone almost strictly overseas toys, import toys because of all that.
And that's another thing. Think about it. When we buy import figures, SH Figure Arts, for instance, never drops an entire wave of anything all in the same month. And if they do, their wave consists of like 4 figures or like 2 figures, you know? So you don't drop $120 on 9 figures and, you know, 6 or 7 of them you don't give a shit about, you know? So it's weird. You save money by collecting a lot of these import figures. Yeah, it feels more expensive because you drop 40 bones like on one thing,
but
plus
you get
shipping.
So much shit.
But yeah, you get so much more that there's like no comparison, you know? NECA, people complain about NECA figures, and I think people manhandle the fuck out of their figures because I don't have a bunch of broken NECA figures, and for a long time they still are one of my go-to figure, you know, brands. So like for my T800 broke. I don't know what you did with that thing because mine's fallen off the shelf onto hard floor. Mine's like I had to run, you know, or put them in the freezer so that I could, you know, pop some of the paint. So he wouldn't, you know, his legs wouldn't be stuck. all kinds of stuff, and he didn't break. He's still here. Stop it. We got munchkins trying to invade the podcast. But yeah, you know, I just don't get what people do with their figures. So when I'm telling you like the figure is quality, trust me, because I play with my fucking figure and I know the tolerances of them. You know, sometimes STRYDENT gets a hold of them and he rips figures apart. Like the freaking total, what is it called? Power Attack Batman. He tore that figure apart. Yeah, he tore it apart, and I was like, okay, I have to stick with smaller figures for him so that he can't just grab a leg and pull in two different directions, you know? What? No, get out of here. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. I can't really.
I'm still
articulate
careful with my NECA Predator figure.
Oh yeah, the Predators. Yeah, I'm careful with them. I don't think I've really played with any of them because you can tell things are made of brittle plastic.
Yeah, and they don't. You think it's gonna go. You think you can move an arm in a certain direction. It's kind of like, nope, no, you can't.
No, you can't.
You better not try it. It's gonna be a broken figure.
Yeah, but like for them though, I feel like besides the City Hunter Predator, I think that's what he was called, or Urban Jungle Predator, whatever, the one from Predator 2 and the one from the Jungle Hunter Predator, they have less crap on them, so those ones you could probably play with. But all the fancy ones from the comics and the ones from the Kenner series that have all these weird protrusions and different types of shoulder-mounted guns and stuff, I'm not messing with all that stuff because it just looks too ornate for you to actually play with. Yeah. So, you know.
Yeah, I'm afraid every time I mess with the sword on the Lost Tribe Predator, I'm afraid it's going to break. Plus, that's also because I had some of the older NECA figures that back when they were making them out of that brittle, cheap-ass plastic.
Which one? Oh, you're talking about like Hayabusa.
Yeah, Hayabusa, and then my the Kratos fell off the shelf, and both of their ankles broke for like no reason. I don't understand what the hell. And I wasn't manhandling them or anything, but ever since then, I was like, because for a while I just swore off NECA figures after that. But now I'm starting to buy them again. I just make sure I'm really, really careful with them, just in case I get that one that didn't come out of the mold right.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times that's the issue, and I think there's so many of them out there that a lot of those folks are who's complaining. Yeah. But hey, stop, come on, quiet.
Yeah, because I'm definitely getting some of those alien xenomorphs.
Yeah, I've got to get a couple of them, and I need the brothers from Alien vs. Predator.
Yeah.
God, I need those because the McFarlane ones hurt my heart. Oh my God.
I remember buying
yeah,
those.
We were playing with them that day at your old apartment when we were in like, what was that, sophomore year or some shit? And like, I just remember Corey broke one because he bought his, and then right after Corey broke his, you broke yours. I'm like, damn! And then I was like, let me look at this stuff. Man, it was the brittlest plastic ever. Brittlest plastic ever. I'm like, they didn't even try, and they barely were articulated. So it was just weird. So I don't know. There's a history of us actually interacting with these figures. So when we're telling you, like, this will survive you playing with it, if more than likely it will. If it doesn't, it's because you got a bad figure and you need to return it, get another one, and see for yourself. Or you need to not do whatever it is you were doing with that figure. But like usually whenever we talk about, you know, action figures and stuff, it's knowledge. We're not dissing the figure just because we hate stuff. We want the figures to be good, you know?
Yeah.
You spent money, you got it in your possession, it's part of your collection. You know, we want it to be good. We want to geek out with you about how cool some of this shit is. So like, you know, if you're asking us about stuff and we're telling you, we're not bullshitting, I promise. So a lot of the perspective we have on the Marvel Legends comes from that. I mean, I have 20-year-old fucking 5 points of articulation Marvel figures from the Toy Biz days that lasted longer than the newer fucking Hasbro Marvel Legends, and they've only had the license for what? Less than 7 years?
Damn. Yeah.
It hasn't even been that long.
It hasn't even been 10 years.
So like when we're talking about the quality of a figure, I mean, look at and that's with playing with the figures. Like back when we were like, what were we in? about to go into high school, something like that. Because obviously we played with figures longer than most people do, because we're still doing it. But like, you know, I remember playing hard with my little brother, my best friend, and we're all like, you know, Apocalypse is slapping X-Men across the room and shit, you know, replacing pegs and things like that when their legs break. Man, I'm telling you, like, we really fucking played with these figures. So, you know, we're not hating for the sake of hating. What else? What about you?
Oh,
what else you got to say? Sorry.
One other thing. Oh, are we just move on to the next subject?
Yeah, we could.
All
Yeah,
right.
let's go ahead.
Yeah, all you motherfuckers out there, you young ass fucking millennials that think you know everything, and you're telling all those old heads to sit down, and you're sitting there chiming in with everyone else that's saying that the '90s sucked. The '90s did not suck,
especially when it comes to comics.
Yeah, in the realm of comics, the '90s did not suck. Like, there were so many good storylines, stuff that they actually are still referencing now. You know, when you talk about like with DC, when you had like Final Crisis and shit.
No, let's not even do that. Like Deadpool. If it weren't for the '90s, you motherfuckers wouldn't have Deadpool for you to dick ride like you know something about comics.
That's true.
You wouldn't. There's so many. Infinity Gauntlet, like you were saying.
Yeah.
'90s. Freaking
Age of Apocalypse.
'90s. You know.
Phalanx Saga. '90s.
'90s. There's so many different things that they've done over the years. So many Batman versus Superman stories. Trinity stories, Elseworld stories, you know, Avengers stories. It's just like a lot of, hey, cut it out, man. Too much. There's so many, you know, good quality, well-written stuff that's from the 80s and 90s. But, you know, things seem to have gotten a little bit crazy at a point, like early 90s. But, like, from the mid-90s to the end, everything was on point for the most part. I mean, they did some shady shit.
Yeah, there was some dumb shit in there.
Like the covers that don't reflect what's going on in the book. That's the shit that made me mad. Like,
or the overuse of foil covers or reflective covers. But
lenticular covers.
Yeah, but if you look at it now, like, it was a gimmick. That was the gimmick then, and then you have the gimmick now, which is variants. Like, the variant game is insane
or
and
number
retarded.
Ones. Everything's a number one because they want to get all the supposed comic.
Yeah, because readers. More people buy number ones than they buy most of the other issues.
Fucking fallacy because nobody's reading comics. Comic sales are an all-time low. Every what is it? There was a really good what's the guy's name? John Schnepp, I think his name is. He did The Death of Superman Lives, the documentary. He pointed out that comic book stores, I think it's like 10 close every year, something like that. So, like, comics don't sell anymore, you know? Like, not like they once did.
Yeah.
It's not selling, no one's making money like they were, because no one's reading the damn things. They watch movies, speculate based on the movies, and try to pretend like you're a comic book fan, and that's not the way it is.
There's a lot of fair weather fans out there when it comes to these comic book movies. And especially and Deadpool's, like, unfortunately, that's like it's the poster child for that shit.
I know.
Because there's a lot of fair weather Deadpool fans, and then those fair weather fans go and see the Deadpool movie, which I saw it Friday, and
it looked like it's good.
It's the best comic book movie that Fox has ever done. Which ain't saying much because the bar has been set pretty low with the X-Men movies and the Wolverine movies. Even the second Wolverine movie, which everyone says is good, which I'm not impressed. I saw some of it at a bar, and I was just like, this doesn't look very good.
It is a lot better than all the other X-Men movies because it's more focused.
All right, I'll have to sit down and watch the whole thing.
Watch the uncut version that's on the Blu-ray.
All right.
But yeah, it frustrates me, the whole 90s argument. Like, what I want to know is, like,
what do you have to compare to it now?
Yeah, exactly.
That makes things better now than they were back in the 90s.
Like, Marvel and DC are redoing shit from both the 80s and the 90s. And then tagging, like, they've got new talent, but they're using the old taglines, the old titles, the old, like, marketing for these, you know, events. Like, all the big events happened 80s, 90s. You know what I mean? Like, maybe late 70s, 80s, and 90s. Yeah. So, like, what the fuck? I don't understand. Like, really? X-Men were at the pinnacle. Fucking X-Men #1 was one of the highest selling comic books ever. Freaking Jim Lee bought his mother a fucking house from the sales of money he made from the sales of X-Men #1, and he was only the artist. It wasn't even shit he owned. Nowadays, nothing hits those kind of numbers. But you're gonna say that the '90s sucked? The X-Men were focused. All the creative teams were kind of on the same page. Their editorial was actually, for the most part, actually doing their job. So, like, you weren't having, in this book, Cyclops is hardcore and controls his team. But in this book, Cyclops is a complete wuss and does nothing. Cut it out. You didn't have that so much. You know what I mean? Like, nowadays, everything, because you have all these rock star writers and all these rock star creative teams. Hey, we're busy. Hush. Now you have all these creative teams that are all rock stars. Everyone wants to be Grant Morrison. Everybody wants to be Mark Miller. Everyone wants to be, Bendis and shit. So everybody's doing their own thing and pooping on the previous writers, or pooping on all the pre-established canon. Okay, we're gonna try this again because my son likes to make a lot of noise, and for some reason he feels like right now is the perfect time to scream at the top of his goddamn lungs to interrupt what we're doing. Shit. Anyway, the Authority #1, that's one. Daredevil #1, the one, I think, what's his name? Quesada did the cover. Famous cover with him falling down towards the city, and he's throwing his baton with the rope connected towards the viewer. Pretty dope cover. Let's see what else. Magnus Robot Fighter #1. Valiant had a lot of cool shit back then.
Fucking Quantum and Woody.
yeah, true. Marvel's #1. Pretty dope book. X-Men #1, like we were talking about earlier. Yeah. Super dope. Started like a fucking ridiculous cavalcade of like X books that are fucking legendary that Marvel cannot imitate again. Yeah. They just can't hit that again. Death of Superman. What is that? Superman #75. One of the first times comics were on the fucking news. They were on. It was on every news channel.
National news, man.
When the fuck have you seen that in recent times, other than to talk about a movie that's coming out? Based on a comic. Spawn #1. Most of the fucking Image universe, the early books, they were fun at the very least. I mean, it's what we read comics for. Harbinger #1. Another book from Valiant. I only just read it recently. I read it. It was like last fall, because a guy I worked with when I was working at that print shop, he he had all the Valiant books, so every day we'd be reading them on our break, and he'd be talking about like which ones he finished. He read almost the whole Valiant universe, like from the '90s to like now, in like, it was like a month or two. He went through all the fucking books. It was nuts. What else? Kingdom Come. That's a huge one. Death, The High Cost of Living. I was never big into Death because I didn't like the art. But a lot of people who aren't like superhero fans, they dug those books. You know what I mean? Like fucking Sandman and Death. Yeah. Big fucking books. Gen 13. Come on now. If you love comics, you need to read that series. And if you haven't read that series, don't try to have this conversation with people. That's a quality series. The art was top-notch. The writing was top-notch. There was a 3-piece, I think it's 3 pieces. It was a 3-piece side story where Grunge is trying to get this super special hollow foil cover of his favorite book. And he has to go through this quest through the land of sequential. They call it the land of SA. It was the land of sequential art. And in this book, he literally travels through all the mainstream comics. You see like freaking the Savage Dragon is a bouncer at a bar for superheroes, and only certain superheroes are allowed in. You see him throwing the Hulk and some other guys out. I mean, like, there were so many little in-jokes. He teams up with Hellboy and the Max, and it was such a good book, and it was so creative that it's like, man, when are we going to get this kind of shit in mainstream comics again?
I remember McFarlane doing that in the Spawn issue.
Where they were all in prison.
Yeah. He was talking about how all the artists that create these characters don't actually hold any kind of ownership over them.
Exactly.
It's all under the corporations, which was why they formed Image Comics in the first place, was to get away from all of that.
That was Image Comics. Wasn't just fucking pouches and swear words and nudity and shit.
And TNA.
It was a movement, because a lot of artists weren't making money. They weren't making the kind of money they should make creating all this shit for these big companies.
Yeah.
I mean, there's artists and creators that worked for Marvel in the 60s that are only now getting their rights or getting reparation or what's the word I'm looking for? Royalties for their creations.
And some of them aren't even getting that. Like the guy who created Rocket Raccoon.
Oh yeah.
I remember reading that story about how he's in a nursing home. And it's like a crappy nursing home because they don't have any money. But meanwhile, you know, Marvel's making money hand over fist with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Exactly.
And this guy's not getting any recognition or any kind of help, you know, because of that. I mean, as much as I love comics, it's the corporate side is really fucked up.
And a lot of you guys have no idea because you've never done freelance work for any of these companies. And if you have, and you were treated right, you should consider yourself lucky. Because the greats, most of them were shat on. It's just the way it is, you know? It really sucks. Freaking guys like Neil Adams, the reason why he's important, it's not because he drew the best Batman. I like a lot of other guys that drew Batman similarly, but to me, they did better things with him, like Jim Aparo. But Neil Adams was a champion for a lot of the other artists that were in the industry. The reason why comic book artists get to keep their pages, that's Neil Adams. The reason why Joel Shuster and Jerry Siegel won their case with ownership over Superman, that's fucking Neil Adams. Like, he was involved because he was like, this shit's wrong. And he knew how things are, he knew the legal side of how things were supposed to work. And a lot of the artists, they knew the art side, the production side. They didn't know shit about the legal side. I mean, what time do you have to do that when you're trying to make a living on your art? This shit's difficult, you know? So, like, once again, 90s stuff, you guys, you don't know. You really don't fucking know. Fucking New Mutants, first appearance of Cable. I'm pretty sure Daredevil's first. I mean, not Daredevil. When I was showing Little Strident the one of the Deadpool figures, and the first thing he said when he saw him was Daredevil. I was like, no, it's not Daredevil. It's another character. The next thing he said was Spider-Man, and he asked me why he had guns, and I was like, yeah, it's not Spider-Man either. But I'm pretty sure that Deadpool's first appearance was either late 80s or 90s.
No, it was the 90s.
It was the 90s because Liefeld drew it.
Yeah,
so.
It was definitely the 90s. My friend has a signed copy of by Liefeld.
Wow. Hellboy came from the 90s. Fucking, and that, don't even try to tell me that book is garbage.
Yeah.
Don't even try it. Fucking Preacher. We're about to get a TV show of Preacher on AMC. Preacher was a decent show, a decent book. Prime from the Ultraverse. I might have said it before, or maybe I said it in the last take when we had to redo it. Let's see. Spider-Man #1 when Todd McFarlane started. Remember that one with the 2 covers? The one with the silver webbing?
Yeah.
And then later on, McFarlane did it again with the black suit. The same situation, same pose, everything. I think he was upside down maybe on the black suit one. I can't remember. But that was a big one. Freaking Unity. That Valiant and Image and Marvel crossover. I think it was Valiant, Image, Marvel, and DC, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. But I think, or maybe it was just between Image and Valiant. But anyway, I knew it was a big-ass company-wide. It's something you never see, except for, like, the generic-ass Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
Where nobody wins because they have to appease all the fans because you guys are too afraid to see your character lose, you know? And they're like, we want to make money. Witchblade. Witchblade was another one. Exo Manowar, Youngblood, fucking Cyberforce.
Yeah.
Like, come on, you guys were
fucking Milestone, dude.
Yeah.
Milestone Comics, period.
I was about to get in there. I mean, and I'll say this because Milestone is a double-edged sword in my book. They were a first for a lot of things that needed to happen, but they weren't the best at those things that needed to happen. So, like, some people will bring up Milestone as if we owe them something, and it's like, no, because some of that shit, you perpetuated a lot of negative stereotypes about people of color, and that would, like, fucking, what was that book called? Blood Syndicate? With the cover with dude throwing up a West Side and shit? Like, man, really? Really? Like, you didn't see the X-Men throwing up X's and shit. Like, what set you rep, fool? Get the fuck out of here, man. That shit made me so annoyed. Not to say that some of the characters weren't cool, but, like, come on now. There's some things you got to separate from, you know, set the example and don't just play into the, what's the word I'm looking for? The pre-programmed stereotypes that we're supposed to fit. But anyway, Milestone does count. We got Icon. We got Rocket. She was one of the first super heroines in modern times dealing with the whole teenage pregnancy thing, which was pretty dope because they did it from a positive perspective instead of doing it from the negative perspective that they always do. You had fucking, what's his name? Static, who was like one of the first, in my opinion, first mainstream smart black kids that was a superhero that didn't do everything the ghetto way and like the generic way where he's, you know, he's strong because he's black. And they made jokes about that in a lot of the stuff that was written by McDuffie, like Buck Wild, remember? His tungsten steel skin. It was a lot of good shit, man.
Like they dealt with sex in that in that comic also. They had a controversial cover that they were trying to cover DC because DC thought it was too racy, and all it was two kids kissing.
Yep. And how many times have we seen that?
Yeah.
You know, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, that's another one. It's just, there were a shitload of good books that came out in the 90s. Like, I'll say for myself, the ones that were influential on me, it was mostly X books, but Age of Apocalypse, that shit was like on a different level. I mean, when I go back and I read it now, it's kind of like, what the fuck? Really? But like, the ideas, if they had went down, how do I put this? If they were more coherent with what they were trying to do and they had made the issues longer or told the in-between stories in order, because there's things that happen and you have to read that it happened. You don't see it happen. So like it's some of them are important plot points where you're like, that happened? Like what the fuck? Like there's one part where there's this like inner city that Mr. Sinister, I think it's Mr. Sinister, his lab is in this portion of the city where they snatch up people and they do all this fucked up shit to the folks that they snatch up. I think they're people who defect from, not Sinister, but Apocalypse's army, or people that he may want to turn to his side. They bring you to this one place and they allude that all these like sexual acts and fucked up things happen to you, but there's characters that go there and they just disappear, and then in conversation, you're supposed to glean that that's where they went, but it's never like straight up said. I think Ileana gets sent there, if I remember correctly, because that's who, or she was there, and that's where Colossus saved her from. But someone else that's kind of big and important, they actually, you know, this happens to them. And like, if you don't believe what I'm saying, you can look up all those people who make it easy for you to learn about this shit with all the Rob Explains Marvel and fucking Comic Storian and all those guys. Look that shit up. I have some of those books somewhere, and like I've read them. I remember reading them and imitating Joe Mad's artwork when I was reading it because I was so into that dude's style that I was like, the images, the fucking you know, the visuals stuck with me. So that book was important. Jim Lee's shit from X-Men was important. So important that I went back and read everything through the 80s, you know, like fucking the shit he did during, was it Inferno? I have the What If, the X-Men Lost Inferno, where Wolverine like eats a bunch of babies. Like, it's fucked up. They're like there's like this caravan and there's these people in cages and they're all trying to get out, and like Wolverine's possessed and Madeline Pryor's possessed, and he's like, you know, I'm famished from the battle, and she's like, you know, what'd she say? You require sustenance, and she throws this baby off the carriage, and you just see Wolverine kind of like off panel. He like bites into the baby off panel, and you're just like, what the fuck am I reading? This is a Marvel comic book, but they were freaking brilliant with how they paneled things. They would, you know, kind of like how in a film you would the camera would slightly move out the way so you'd see the shadow of a killing or something. Yeah. They did the exact same thing with the framing of, you know, certain actions in those books. And they got away with murder, like serious murder in these books. And shit like that sticks with you. These days, they really, everything is so extreme that it's like, meh.
Hell, I even like the whole Onslaught storyline up until Heroes Were Born. Up until that, it was crap. But everything else before that was awesome because, you know, you had Bishop's story about how he came back from the past, and they kept hinting at this huge disaster that, you know, destroys the X-Men and it kills everybody off. And you're looking at they keep playing Jean Grey's final message. Yeah. And you're like, what happened? Like, you're constantly wondering what happened. And then they finally start to show you what happens, and they start hinting at this character named Onslaught. You see Juggernaut fall out of the sky in the middle of nowhere.
That cover was awesome.
Yeah, and he's just laying there,
laying in the pressed into the ground, like holy shit, what the hell?
Onslaught's coming, like oh my god, and you're like, who the hell was strong enough to fuck up Juggernaut?
Yeah.
So like all that stuff was awesome. I even like the explanation, even though it doesn't make sense.
But like weirder shit is happening. In their world.
Yeah, it's comic books.
Exactly.
Yay.
I know, right? They're weird. Comic books are weird. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That shit was on point, and it's kind of annoying that people didn't take the time to read that shit, but then they want to have like this hardcore opinion on how these things work, and it's like, you don't get to do that. You can't diss something without actually having put in the time to know what makes it good or bad. Go back, take the time to read this shit. Yeah, it's not on fucking magazine quality paper. Yes, it's not some shit you're going to be able to go on. We didn't have Wikipedia, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Back
or
then.
Comixology.
Yeah, so we couldn't just read and find out someone else explain to us what happened. We had to put in the work. So it feels like a lot of these newer fans and we hear this a lot about being a fan and not being a fan and blah, blah, blah. But with comics, it's personal for us because it's like we actually sat down and had to read and figure this shit out for ourselves. Nobody explained that shit to us. We had to figure it out. We had to go hunt down the books. Mm-hmm. We had to trade the books with people you might not necessarily have wanted to talk to or trade with. You had to, figure out a way to get the end of the story so you could find out what happened. And nowadays, all you guys got to do is look on Wikipedia or Comic Vine or Comixology or listen to fucking Benny, a comic historian, tell you what happened, or fucking Rob explain every single piece of what happened. It's so easy. And then even worse, we still have the fair weather fans who don't even put in that time. And then want to argue the points with these lame one-off experiences that they have with the character and use that as their, trump card when they want to say that, the Flash could beat, Superman because there was the one time where he ran so fast that he, it was him converging on himself through time and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. No. You know what I mean? And or all the people who are like, Deadpool is so awesome. Like, have you ever noticed in Deadpool books, it's always questionable. There's certain books where it's questionable whether or not the events that are going on in the book are actually happening. Like, some of this shit could be in his head because he's crazy. There's certain books where he's in the book with other people and he's not a main character. You can tell it really is happening. But a lot of his books, it's so outlandish, and there's shit like his word bubbles are different colors. The events don't fit into, chronological, or like they don't fit into the canon the way that they should. And I think that the writers have been trying to tell people certain things, and fans take, like, Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. Those are all what-if books. They're all like Elseworlds kind of books, but there's people who think that shit is canon. Nah,
yeah,
Deadpool...
Same thing with Old Man Logan.
Yeah, it's not canon. Not at all.
Old Man Logan, it's canon in the sense that it happened in an entirely different Marvel universe.
Exactly.
But, yeah, it's not canon within the 616.
Exactly. So, I don't know. I think a lot of people need to go back and kind of, like, reassess what it is that you think you know about all this shit, or what it is you're trying to get out of this stuff, and then come to a conclusion. Because some of what I'm hearing, or what we tend to hear, doesn't make any fucking sense. It just sounds like people dissing shit.
It's people dissing shit for the sake of dissing it, because they heard one person say the 90s suck, and
becomes a meme.
And they give a it became a meme, and you talk about everybody had all the extra pockets and all that other bullshit in the 90s.
Yeah.
But nobody ever gives examples as to like why the 90s sucked.
Yeah. Or they'll pick the worst books.
One of the few
like
stories that suck.
Executioner's Song or some shit. Like, come on, man. For everyone who wants to pick Executioner's Song, there's like 50 other books that were better. You know? Shit, I named a bunch of them just a little bit ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. It is one of those things we've heard so much. I think we've even mentioned it before.
Yeah, we've talked about briefly about people talking about how they feel the 90s suck. But we never went into like bringing up our own examples as to why it was great.
Fucking Ghost Rider, Mark Texeria, the whole run from like number 1 in, I think that was the late 80s all the way to That I think number 1 was done by Javier Saltares, and then like all the way up to when Mark Texeira was taken over, up to when I think it was 50. There's like another number 1 somewhere in there, and it hits 50. 50 had like a silver cover, and it had Ketch turning into Ghost Rider, and it was like a gatefold, central gatefold in the middle of the book, where he gets killed by Blackout, and then his body just turns into Ghost Rider, but Ghost Rider comes out of his body, and now he's lost because he's like, the fuck, like my host is dead. I have to track down the guy who killed me or killed him, and I don't know what's going to happen next. And you're like, what the fuck? There was even an issue where Ghost Rider teamed up with the X-Men, and he got possessed by a brood. Like, there were all kinds of cool shit that happened in 90s books that they were, like, I guess they were unafraid to take the chance because all these characters were popular, so they just used them however they could. And nowadays, we don't get that. There's like several whole corners of the Marvel Universe they don't even explore anymore.
Yeah.
They just left that shit alone. Unless a movie or a cartoon comes out, they're not planning on going back to deal with those things. And that kind of sucks. It would be nice if they really played with the Marvel Universe as a whole. I mean, I think that's the reason why the movies are becoming successful, is because the people making the films are like, remember when, the Midnight Suns used to exist? We could play with them. Or you remember when, the freaking Infinity Watch was around? We can now play with those characters. Like, they're thinking about back when it was better. I mean, shit, the movies are all pulling shit from the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting a Days of Future Past movie.
Yeah.
It's going to suck balls, but, at least
at least I can go. It already did.
I'm talking about Age of Apocalypse, my bad.
Yeah, which is not going to be the same Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, not even close. And it's going to suck balls anyway, so.
But yeah, they really, I don't know how else to put it. It's just there was a lot of quality. There was a lot of shit. I mean, DC stuff, we had up and down until the death of Superman. And then all of a sudden they caught traction. They were like, oh shit, now that Superman's dead, there's that big, powerful dude that we can't fall back on. So now everybody else has to figure out how to do, whatever. Not to say that DC doesn't have enough heavy hitters to make up for it, but like...
Hell, I liked Reign of Superman.
Yeah, I did too. It wasn't as bad as people say it was.
And it made sense because Superman was the example. And if Superman can't be Superman anymore, then somebody else needs to want to come up and take up the mantle and continue his work.
Exactly.
Which made sense to me why they went that route.
Yeah. It's true. There's a lot of shit that happened that was really well done. I mean, like you said about Maximum Carnage. It was a cool story. I mean,
yeah, and they made a game out of it back then.
I know, right?
When was the last time you had a game based off of a comic book art that was really popular?
That's true. There are no arcs these days that make it into. I mean, if it makes it into it, like in Arkham City and stuff like that, in Arkham those games, that's different. But like the whole game was based on that arc.
Yeah.
God, and there's X-Men arcs that would make amazing games.
Yes,
like freaking Extinction Agenda. That'd be amazing. Freaking, because the X-Men had some really cool periods, like when Havoc was leading the team, when, before Psylocke actually was a member of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Back when they used to fight the Reavers all the time, fucked up ass cyborg mercenaries and shit, like, all kinds of shit that they could draw from now to make better movies, and they don't do it,
The Phalanx Saga.
Phalanx Saga
make
was
a
amazing.
game out of that.
Good God, that was amazing. But then you'd have to put him in space, and Bryan Singer doesn't believe in space. So,
Bryan Singer doesn't even believe in Gambit.
There's so much. I mean, they've already screwed that up.
Yeah.
What else? Freaking, I will say, I was so sick. Maybe that was in the 2000s. I was tired of Joseph. No, I was in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, it was near the end.
Into the 2000s.
Yeah.
Joseph pissed me off. That Magneto clone.
Yeah.
That shit, like, there were times where I was like, wow, this character's cool. And then he would always do something to make me lose faith.
Yeah.
Like, fuck Joseph. They need to kill this guy off. Bring back regular Magneto, because at least I know what I'm getting with him. But
I always thought he was Magneto, but he lost, like, his memory or some shit.
I don't remember. I swore he was a clone, because there was something... There were a couple issues where shit happened and he met up with people who knew Magneto. And maybe you're right. Maybe he was mind wiped or something. I can't remember. I have to go through some of that shit again. I just remember there were a couple issues where they were in the Shi'ar homeworld. And, Magneto had met Lilandra and Deathbird and all that shit. And he didn't know him. and when they talked about reading his mind, there was something off, and then you found out. I think he was a clone.
Oh.
I can't remember. I know though that like his shtick was he believed he was Magneto, and he was trying to undo all the fucked up shit he did. But there was a reveal somewhere towards the end of their playing around with that character where it was like, yeah, he's a fucking bad guy, or he's a clone, and then they did the whole Zorn bullshit.
Well, that was in the 2000s.
Yeah, and that was in 2000. Yeah, I think by the time they got rid of Joseph, then they did the whole shit with Zorn, and that's like it was like one immediately followed the other or something. I could be wrong. There's a lot of X-Men history,
Yeah.
and like considering like we've read through most of it, there was a point in the 2000s where I was like, yeah, this isn't my X-Men anymore.
Especially after the movies.
Yeah, it got stupid.
It started to get shitty, and then Chris Claremont came back to write the books, and it still sucked. And he's written some really good stories.
Yeah,
but yeah, X-Men fell off to me at that point.
Yep. But I don't know. That's how we feel about this 90s being crap bullshit. The 90s had some great fucking movies, great fucking comic books. Fucking toy game was fucking ridiculous back in the 90s. Pretty much, once they figured out that we love this shit, they gave us toys of everything. It's almost like now, except the toys weren't of the same caliber as they are now, as far as getting the sculpt right and the articulation and shit like that. But 5 points of articulation. I mean, I've got some Spawn figures with 5 points of articulation. I kick the shit out of Marvel Legends that we get now. And I mean, I can't really do anything with him but look at him and raise one arm up, or raise a hand up and bend it at the elbow.
Some kind of like fist punching action or something.
But some of them look so fucking good. I mean, in their little almost pre-posed sculpt.
Yeah.
Some of them just look fucking amazing. That fucking Cagliostro figure, I think he's standing right there.
Yeah.
It's an old ass figure standing up straight, looking at you. That motherfucker looks bad as hell, but try to make him do something, and you're like, oh my god, the figure's horrible. Like he can't do anything. But I'm telling you that it was not a bad time. Comic book shops were plentiful, so you could go all over the place. Shit, there were like 2 in the mall out here. I know at Easton there were 2. Yeah. Back where I used to live, every mall that we had back in there was the Woodbridge Mall. There was the what was the other one we used to go to? Jesus Christ, that's where I used to play Street Fighter Alpha. I used to hustle the fuck out of people in Street Fighter Alpha at the other Menlo Park Mall. And then there were Ocean City Mall. There was all kinds of shit like around us. They all had comic book stores. I never had to really struggle to find a comic book store. Then the 2000s came. They all started shutting down. By the time we graduated from college, I think all of them except for 1 or 2 in the city of Columbus around us, downtown, stretching out to, Northland area, and stretching out to like High Street to Northland, they're all gone.
Yeah.
There was just
we still have a pretty decent amount of comic book stores.
No, there's 3.
No, there's...
Or 4. There's the Ogre, there's the one,
Ogre,
Comic Town, Capital City, and Blacklick, and then there's, what's that?
Keith's Clubhouse.
That place sucks.
But it's still a comic book shop.
It fucking blow. It's like a couple checks from being closed.
There's also
that place fucking blows. It's in this tiny little house.
Yeah,
and he doesn't really have a selection, and like it looks like it's about to be closed. Like for real, I'm serious. Like if you don't pay attention, you drive past it every time. The only people they get are people who always knew they were there. But yeah, it's there.
There's also I think it's called Black Hole Comics.
Yeah,
which that place has like, I think that guy's just really bad at organizing his shit because you walk in, he has new issues, but he has a ton of bag issues and none of it's organized, and because he has 2 separate rooms, and it looks cluttered and unorganized. And then I found Pack Rat Comics.
Yeah, I know. They sold my book, the preview book, and then we got into it because they were real greedy about some shit. So I was like, fuck it, I'm not gonna mess with these guys. They were real nice at first, and then the longer we were talking about, doing other things like having signings and having exclusive shit that's only going to be sold at their place, and they just were weird about that stuff. So like I guess they only want like the top people that are already established. They don't want any new new talent as much. So I don't know. It was weird. I was like, hey, you're gonna make money off of this shit regardless. We'll
Yeah.
get people into your store. But yeah, I remember we used to go there. They're up like in the beach. I think it's that beach beach something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I've got the address on my.
It's near where our one of the martial arts supply stores that we used to go to was.
It's right next to a pizza place.
Yeah.
There's also World's Greatest.
I forgot about them.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't like the owner of that place.
And they're out there,
yeah, they're kind of far away.
Yeah,
they're all far
I'm talking
away.
about like
within Columbus. Yeah,
within this area, like there's like 3 or 4 comic book stores. And there used to be like 10.
Yeah.
When we first moved up here, man, there were comic book stores every damn where. And now it's just like, nope. You're lucky if you can find if the 3 are open or the 4 are open. And one place, freaking racist ass, the
Laughing Ogre.
Fuck that place.
Yeah.
Following,
I think they look at everybody like that.
You think
because
so?
Yeah, because when Majewski and his wife came down, they were looking at them like that too.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. It was weird because, like, if you saw them, you would not think they would be potential like shoplifters or anything.
I mean, realistically, everyone could be a potential, but there's people who have been coming in there forever.
Yeah.
So it's like, when are they going to pay attention to the folks that have been there?
It's just I think it's just how they go at everybody like that there. Because
no, when we were in there before, they were only going at us.
No, my other friend from work, because one day we were driving and we were talking about Laughing Ogre, and I just was just like, you ever get the feeling like as soon as you walk in, you got eyes on you, like they expect you to steal stuff? He was like, yeah, man, blah blah blah, and he's white as fuck, but he felt the same way, and he doesn't go in there anymore because of that.
Well, more reason.
They overcharge for a lot of their books.
That was the next thing I was gonna say. Not only is the atmosphere really shitty, but they overcharge the fuck out of you for books. I mean, I got lucky a couple times, like my Ghost Rider Resurrected. They ordered it for me, and it was actually cheaper from them than it was for me to buy it online because I didn't have to pay for shipping for them to find that book. And that's a big-ass book that's been out of print for a little while. So I got lucky with that shit. But, yeah, fuck that. I don't like places like that. Yeah. Comic books, this is like, I used to say this when I used to teach art, is like we're all the rejects. So we're at home here. There's no judgment in this room because, shit, we're the guys goofing off, reading comics, dreaming of being a superhero and shit. And then we're in that domain and you're going to judge us? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you were us before you got to, or maybe not. Maybe that's why he's judging us that way. But, yeah, it shouldn't be like that. You should go in there like freaking Chaz's place, what was it called?
Used to call it the Hole in the Wall.
Yeah, the Hole in the Wall. It was called Discount Paperbacks. Yeah. That place was fucking amazing. It was like, you knew smarmy-ass people hung out up top because they sold porn in the other room. Yeah. But, like, it was like all these old comics. It had that stank-ass smell, like old mildewed comics and shit. And it looked like if anything caught fire, we're all dead. Like,
you hold that place up with a match.
Poof, and we're gone. All of us.
Like, this is a stick up and you just hold a match.
And we'd be done. And freaking... the dude was cool. Like, he didn't look like he really, like, read everything. But if you ask him about something, he'd be like, I think it's over there in this corner over here under all this shit. He would dig it out, and he would have everything you asked for. I mean, that place
he was carrying, import action figures before a lot of other places started doing
the
that.
NECA Turtles that people on YouTube tried to tell me were fucking bootlegs before the bootlegs even fucking existed. I got them all from...
Yeah, and he was straight
up
up Rebel
legit.
Tech figures and stuff. And this was like before that shit became mainstream in the States among like collectors and stuff.
Exactly.
He had a lot of that shit.
He was on point, man. That was my favorite place to go. And then it got weird because he had cancer. And then he passed away. Someone else, I think one of his relatives, took over, and that person just pretty much robbed the place.
Yeah.
Ran it into the ground, and then now it's gone. So yeah, it's kind of like when you think back to when people are talking about the 90s, there's a certain way that things were done back in the day that few comic book stores today still maintain. Because everybody's trying to cash in because it's comics, theoretically, based on the films, seem like they're lucrative. You know what I mean? So they're like, it's a business opportunity. Let me jump in on this shit and take advantage of these nerdy-ass kids who love comics and shit. But they're not really giving you the atmosphere and the feeling that we got back in the day that made us so hardcore into this shit, you know? So it's not the same today as it was back in the day. And if you ask anybody of a certain age, like from their mid-20s to their 30s or 40s, maybe even older, they'll tell you, comic book stores back in the day, like, some places get mad at you for having a pull list that's huge.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they didn't give a shit. As long as you came back and you bought something, they didn't give a shit. Because they want you to keep reading these books and keep coming back, because they also these guys shared the love that you had.
Oh, what's his name at Comic Town? He would throw in books for you.
Yeah.
That he thought you might be interested in your pull list.
Mm-hmm.
Which I kind of got annoyed because I was like, dude, I like it, but I don't want to pay for this because I've already got all these other books I got to buy.
Yeah. I stopped with pull lists because it always gets to a point where you're behind.
Yeah.
And it just piles up. And even if your favorite book switches creative teams and the book is going downhill, it's already in your pull list.
Yeah.
And then they expect you to keep buying it. And it's hard to just be like, yeah, this book kind of sucks. I don't want this in my book. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the truth. Like, it sucked and you don't want to pay for it. You don't want to pay for shit you don't like. And, but it's like you've already committed. So, I don't know. It's one of those double-edged swords. But, yeah, things were so different when it came to that stuff. Because I remember having a pull list. All the books were good. I didn't have any issues buying all the books. I'd save up for fucking like a couple months or 2 months, something like that, and just come in, buy a gang of comics, read for a couple months or 2 months, a month, come back, get the pull list, do it again. Yeah. And it worked, and it was awesome. And then what I couldn't find, what they didn't get, I would trade with people at school, and we'd fucking get them, and we'd be geeking out the whole time. It was like a whole different thing. Now, it's nothing like that. You guys are missing out on a lot. A whole lot. I remember Captain America. I got into Captain America really late. And I hadn't read a lot of the shit from like the 80s and stuff. And I didn't know a lot of the characters, like Machete. I didn't know who the fuck that character was, but I had some books that I got in. Like, you remember when Toys R Us used to sell those big, like, stacks of comics that were wrapped up?
Yeah.
And I got a couple of those that had old Captain America books with, like, insane artwork, like Bernie Wrightson level artwork. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. So I went back and started collecting them, and then I got into Ron Lim's artwork because he did like a ridiculous 400 issue run of Captain America. I mean, it was several arcs, but I think that whole year he did the majority of those books. Then from that, because of his artwork, I got into Silver Surfer, and some of these cats, it was like their art was so good that even if the story sucked, I would still buy the book just because I wanted to see how he was going to draw whatever was coming next. What was it going to look like? What was it going to feel like? And but I traded so many comics to get a complete. I had 400 or 300 issues of Captain America straight because I traded so many of my like shitty Batman books or shitty X-Men books that like X-Force and stuff like that, like the side ones that weren't as good. I traded those issues I didn't like with folks that didn't really know anything about Captain America, and I would get like. They're like, I'll give you 4 of these Captain America books. I don't ever read Captain America. He's corny. I'll give you 4 of these for this one X-Men book because X-Men were the shit at the time. I'm like, fuck it, take it. I don't care. Man, I remember putting in so much work just to read up on him. Blade was the same way. I remember trading books so I could read his old boring-ass 70s, some of the boring-ass 70s stories. Not to say that all of them were boring, but there's a portion of the stories where it was just like, what the fuck are they doing with this guy? And that probably was right before they stopped Blade altogether. But like the early shit, the Tomb of Dracula shit, I remember trading people to get those books because they weren't into that stuff.
Yeah.
I fucking loved it. And this was before Midnight Suns, way before Wesley Snipes' Blade.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, when we tell you we are comic book fans, man, it's like it's almost embarrassing how far back the shit goes. But I mean, that's why I illustrate now because of all that stuff, But
I used to be pawing through back issue books trying to collect Venom issues I missed. Back when they were actually writing him decently.
When he was eating brains.
Yeah. No, even a little bit after that when he was like the Lethal Protector and all that. I used because I loved Mark Bagley's work.
Yeah, me too.
And so I was trying to get that first 6-issue series.
Whatever happened to, do you remember the artist? His name was like Alex Saviuk, I think. He drew Web of Spider-Man. He drew fucking there's like I have years worth of Spider-Man books where it was only him, but there was like a Silvermane saga where Silvermane kidnapped Spider-Man and was going to use his blood to power his suit so that he could or not to power his suit, but he was going to have like a blood transfusion with
He was to save himself?
Yeah, because remember, this was when he was the mangled ass body inside of like a cybernetic body, and so like he had him hooked up to these machines, and the blood was siphoning from that to, you know, to Spider-Man. He captured the Black Cat too, and this is back when she had powers.
Yeah. Her bad luck powers.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. She died so much, and it was like, fuck, and then she'd be back, and you'd be like, wait up, 9 lives, I get it. But Saviuk drew the In the Name of the Rose saga. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. I love that shit. When he fought what are they called? The Chang brothers? The Triad brothers. That's what they were called. The 3 Chinese dudes with the long braids and the swords, and the leather jacket with the big old Chinese whatever on their backs. And the swords, when they hit the swords together, there was like energy coming off of them, and they would shoot that at Spider-Man. It was like, there was so much dope-ass street-level gangster shit going on in that book, because it was all about the mob and like the different families that were tied together, the Kingpin's family, fucking the original Rose's family, Ned Leeds, and all this stuff. It was all good shit, like that. The continuity went all the way back to like the 70s and shit, because there's an old 60s or 70s issue where Wolverine and Spider-Man team up to hunt down the original Rose. And I don't know, man, it's just like shit like that made me so happy. But Alex Saviuk was the artist that drew most of that shit. And there's a point where he just disappears. And I can't find much about him online. And I've looked up his artwork a couple times. I can find artwork, but they don't really tell you anything that happens with these artists, which kind of blows. But stuff like that, man. That's when I started paying attention to comic book artists more, like their names and what they did and what their technique was and all that shit. Because some of these guys were dope, and they didn't really get the oh, he's still alive. Cool. They don't get the attention that they deserve. Because a lot of them, they're freelance. So they don't have the kind of stability that us working a regular 9-to-5 that we have. Like, I work a 9-to-5 and do freelance on the side so I can have insurance for me and, you know, the rest of the family and stuff. But then I can also do the artwork so that, you know, and I have a retirement or some shit, you know? Because you don't get a retirement doing freelance illustration. They're like, fuck you, do our work for us, don't complain, and then die when you're finished. It's the honest to goodness truth, man. They don't give a shit. And a lot of these guys, they're passing away because they don't have any, any retirement. They don't have, I mean, some of them were smart, and they had ways that they saved up stuff, but some of them just didn't know. They got into the business young, and it wasn't until they were much older that they figured out all this shit. So now they're just not in a good space when it comes to their health. But if you guys get the chance, you should look up some of Alex Saviuk's artwork. That motherfucker was just amazing. Some of his shit was really, really dope. He's one of the few that drew Peter Parker like a grown man. Like, everybody else drew him like a teenage guy with like a muscular body. Yeah. He drew Peter Parker like almost like a standard, regular grown man. He even had a mullet back in the 90s. Shit was amazing. And I think back then I liked him, Bagley, and what's the guy's name? Larson. Larson. Eric Larson. Yeah. I used to, even though Eric Larson's work is rough as hell sometimes, I still loved it. Like, do you remember the Revenge of the Sinister Six?
I was just gonna bring that up.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up.
I bought that book so many times because the teacher took it from me when I was in like 8th grade, I think it was. I was reading it in class, like under the desk, trying to get through it. And I had the very last one. I had just got it the weekend before. It was Monday. I got it on that Saturday, and I didn't get a chance to read it. So I brought it with me to school to show my other friends, and it had a big-ass like trifold cover or something. And I'm sitting there reading it under the desk, and my fucking social studies teacher saw it, and she snatched that shit and never gave it back.
I know, they never give back comics.
I was so mad. So then, like, here I am in college, which was like, what? That was 8th grade? So that was several years later, and I'm like, fuck, I need to finish this, because I had 4 of the 6 books, because I guess 2 of them got taken away. But I fucking had to hunt that shit down. I found both the ones I was missing for a good fucking price. I think it was under $5 for the 2 of them. I was like, thank goodness. So I was able to finally finish that shit. But the art, I just remember at lunchtime drawing shit that happened, like when Gog came and smashes like Hulk and Ghost Rider and all them with his giant hand. I remember drawing all that shit, or fucking Solo's corny ass.
Yeah.
I we were drawing Solo so many times and redesigning him so he actually looked like a badass instead of just being implied that he was a badass. Like, I'm telling you, there was so much going on with these
It's funny
books.
how Marvel have forgotten some of those characters. Like,
because they were just like other characters. Marvel had like duplicates and triplicates of the same character essentially. Solo was he's the Punisher with a teleporter, which is so much like Deadpool now. Deadpool has the teleporter. He kills people, but he doesn't act like the Punisher.
Yeah.
Like they just took pieces of the archetypes and just mix and matched them, and that's how you ended up with these guys. What do you say? My name is Solo, and where evil lives. What do you say? Where I live, evil dies. I'm like, what kind of lame ass like catchphrase is that? Like, this is so lame. But
I remember Cardiac. Remember Cardiac?
Oh my god! With that staff that shocks you.
Yeah, because he was a doctor, in his alter ego.
Oh my god! There's a black character that most people would totally forget was black. Yeah. He had the Jerry curl mullet and everything, man. God. See, I'm telling you, man. God, this is one of those things like we could do, and I wanted to do this with Prime one time where we go back and talk about some of the books that inspired some of the characters that we created. Because I remember when him and I became friends, it was right after Image started, and I met the Image people at a convention, the first convention I ever went to, and like, it was like you had this extra, not insight, but like a boost of energy to get into this shit because now you've met the real guys, and it's like, oh my god, I have to see what else they drew, and I wanted to go through. We probably would have talked mostly about Image because at the time that's what we were reading, but yeah, it's just weird when you think back to all those books and you think about the shit that comes out now. It's all so similar. Whereas back then, you had your Image books, you had your Ninja Turtles books, you had your fucking Archie books, you had your Sonic books, you had, in the Marvel pantheon, you had all their weird different characters. You had your Midnight Suns, you had your space opera shit, you had your street level shit, you had your real superhero hardcore shit. Then you had DC with the same kind of things, but you also had Elseworlds, and then you had Legends of the Dark Knight. You had all this other shit going on. You had your various Superman books and all that stuff. It's like, even though now we still have some of the same stuff, it's not handled the same way because some of those stories, some of the modern stories will end in one book, like Adventures of Superman, and then pick up in Man of Steel. And it's like, but it's a Adventures of Superman story. Why doesn't it just continue throughout the one book?
Yeah.
Or like, the New 52 stuff now bleeding into the standard continuity. Like, I get that was kind of the point, but it's like, why couldn't you just keep that separate and let that be a continuity for people who like that shit?
Yeah.
Like, they don't handle the books with the same kind of, confidence that they used to, so that they can give everybody that piece that they like, Like, Ultimates was awesome because I could read Ultimates and it was separate from everything else. They did all kinds of shit to take elements from Ultimates and put it in the regular Marvel Universe. And it's like, I don't want to read the regular Marvel Universe if I'm reading Ultimates. I obviously like this. I don't know. Comics are weird.
There were characters in the Ultimates that I liked that didn't make it into the 616 after Secret Wars. Like, there was a character they made named Bombshell. She was actually really cool, and she's gone. The version of Cloak and Dagger that they had in the Ultimates universe, they're gone. Like, it sucks now because, and granted, they saved Miles Morales, yippee hooray, but like,
now we still got too many Spider people.
Yeah,
we still got too many, and they found a way to bring back Peter Parker, so it almost once again it invalidates Miles Morales, just like Falcon Cap. Like, now you got Bucky and you got regular Cap coming back with a new shield and a new suit and stuff. And it's like, we knew that was going to happen. Yeah. So what makes Falcon Cap even worth a damn? Like, if you had them in different continuities, I'd be like, okay, that's pretty dope. Or different universes, that'd be awesome. But no.
Yeah, I guess Cap is going to be handling the domestic stuff. Or Falcon Cap's handling the domestic stuff and all the supervillains and stuff. And then they're having Steve Rogers Cap handle like Hydra and all the stuff he used to fight back in the day. Because I guess Hydra's back and they're bigger and badder than ever.
Hold on to your butt.
Yeah.
It's weird because like you realize how little anything gets accomplished in comics. Like, if Steve Rogers was fighting Hydra during World War II and supposedly he beat them, Then he got frozen for like, what, 80, 90 years or some shit? I mean, not 80 years. Yeah, it was like, no, 60 years, something like that, right?
I mean, depending on when they decided.
What the continuity is, yeah, because he was in the 40s and he came out in 2000 and something now.
Yeah.
But Hydra's still there. He beat Hydra when he came out. He lost his powers, gains his powers back, and Hydra's still there. It's like, what the fuck have you been doing all this time?
It's like, I guess since the whole theme of Hydra is cut off one hand and two grow in its place, you could never technically get rid of Hydra, but I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Because like you remember there was the DC Marvel versus DC where they switched places. Like the Marvel guys went to the DC universe, and the DC guys came to the Marvel universe. And Superman's first thing, he was like, "How did you let it?" Or no, was it? Yeah, he said, "How did you let it get like this?" He's like, "Why are these people still here? What do you guys do?" And it was like, you know, they can't really explain why the villains that they've been fighting for the entire life of the Marvel Universe are still here. Whereas, like, the Justice League, I mean, there's some of that in the Justice League, but there's a lot of villains that die off. They go to prison and they never use them again, and they're done. So, yeah, it's kind of, I mean, these days, that's not the case. They're resurrecting everything.
And everybody's a revolving door out of prison.
Jesus Christ. I don't know. But anyway.
Yeah. Oh, did you see what they were gonna do with the 90 or not New 52 Superman?
Isn't he like gonna merge with the new one?
See, that's what I thought, but I think he's gonna turn into Ultraman because he lost his powers, and he's trying to figure out a way to get him back. So I guess when he got shot up or he got injured really bad, he ended up getting like human cells or whatever to help him heal, and so he feels like that's the reason why he can't get his powers back because the human cells are interfering. So he goes into like a vault of kryptonite in order to kill off the human cells so his Kryptonian cells can regenerate. And it kind of works, but he's getting his powers back, but he's getting like extra powers. Like he's got like a radar sense now, which he had like way back in the day. But
why would you need a radar sense when you can hear and see like
everything? Yeah. I don't know. And somebody in the comment section even said, yeah, that would make sense. He could hear radar. He could hear like radio waves and shit, but he wouldn't be able to read them because all radio waves are encrypted. So it just sounds like a garbled mess. But it's whatever. It's comic books, so it's fucking whatever. Yeah. So somebody else was like, dude, they're gonna turn him into Ultraman. I was thinking the same thing. Because there's that one image where Ultraman like zaps some kryptonite and then snorts that shit like cocaine, and he's like, I got my powers, I'm the most powerful ever. And so I'm like, whoa, what if they really do that with New 52 Superman? They turn him into Ultraman.
That would actually be awesome. That would be awesome. That would be super fucking awesome. It'd be kind of goofy, but it would be awesome. Shit. That would make me read some more Superman stuff. Just to have him as a villain. I'd read those books. Because, like, there was things, I liked Forever Evil, but there was so much about the rest of that shit where I was just like, what the fuck is going on? 5 years of existence, and you've crammed 75 years of history into it? Like, what the fuck? Who came up with that? And there's people arguing, no, it makes sense. No, shut up. That doesn't make, how do you have 75 anything and 5 of anything?
Yeah. I know Batman went through all of his Robins in 5 years or something like that.
Yeah, and he himself is younger.
Yeah.
What? Or Superman, like being, all his history, death, rebirth, everything. Get the fuck out of here.
And the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah, oh God, we can't even, oh my God. And it's just painful because, we read all these, like, iconic stories and they mean something, and then now you just have someone say, oh, well, it kind of happened. Like, come on, man. Like, let it be separate. It doesn't have to, all of it doesn't have to be all connected. It's just as bad as the disrespect I feel when they have, like, a Superman story being redone on that terrible Supergirl show. Like, seriously? You're just going to take everything from Superman's pool and redo it with Supergirl? Like, you have no imagination at all? It's not like Supergirl didn't exist for over 30 years. It's not like she doesn't have her own bad guys, her own stories, her own anything. Like, these kind of things get on my nerves. And
I wish they would rip the Justice League Unlimited story and clone her And
that would be awesome.
That's Wonder Girl. I mean, Power Girl,
but yeah, like an evil.
Instead of her
Power
name
Girl.
is Galatea.
Yeah, that would be dope.
Yeah, I'd watch that shit.
Me too. Me too. Yeah, they just I don't know. But I'm gonna ask something else.
Gotta find that shit one day.
What? So what toys have you picked up or figures have you picked up as of recent?
Just the figure arts Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
That's my first purchase of the new year, actually.
Yeah.
Because technically we bought. Well, I mean, you did, but I had to wait till it came out because I missed the pre-order.
Yeah.
The Garo, but that was technically I bought that last year.
Yeah.
I just didn't get it until the new year.
The new year, yeah. That figure's dope. It has some issues. I'm actually just finishing the review today. Like, I had shot it a while back, but you know how it is. All the munchkins and people requiring my time. So.
Yeah. I mean, you had birthday parties and stuff to do.
Yeah. It's crazy. Both of our kids freaking born in the... Jesus, I can't talk.
Born day.
Born days. Their born days are like one month after each other. So we did Little Strident, and then we did... General Nuisance.
Ramses.
Ramses. We did his actually, we did theirs the same day. We ended up doing one in the weekend so that we could cut out some of the work. But yeah, man, I picked up a lot of stuff because I was selling figures towards in the beginning of the year, and I mean it's still the beginning of the year. I was selling figures in January, and like a lot of people wanted to trade stuff, and a lot of people were like, I have this cool whatever, you know, maybe I'm going to sell it at this time, so maybe if you want it, blah, 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 I'll hit you up and let you know. So I ended up getting things like I got the Mafex, Amazing Spider-Man 2 Spider-Man, which I freaking love. Probably the best Spider-Man I have. It kicks the shit out of the Hasbro, all the Hasbro ones. I don't know why anybody would argue about that. This shit is just perfect. He's got compound eyes. It's like shit you never see on a Spider-Man that they put in here. And it's from Mafex. The people who gave us that shitty Dark Knight figure. And it's like, wow. So everything they've done since then is probably quality. So I'm definitely getting their Batman vs. Superman stuff because it's going to work. The shit's going to be cool. It's not going to be complete garbage.
Yeah, I didn't plan on collecting anything Batman vs. Superman until I saw those toys. I was like, yeah, damn it. I'm going to end up getting
You don't have much DC shit at all.
No, I don't.
Why?
I just never... I wanted to do the... You know, I wanted to do the Justice League, and I just never did. And I was going to do the icons, and then those turned out to not be what I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, they're going to be overpriced.
Yeah. I still might get that Blue Beetle. I'm definitely going to get the static figure.
Yeah. I saw Blue Beetle's out. I actually saw it.
Yeah, I did too, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
The freaking it's the weird scale, but at the same time, since he's supposed to be small, I don't mind that. But the weird scale and the way that they've marketed those figures and the price increase is just left a bad taste.
Yes.
Like, you got to be kidding me! $28 for that? Like, no. What else?
Damn, man! I'm trying to take people.
I know,
people
right?
for a ride.
For real. Garo, of course, I got.
I wish I could get more, but more Garo.
Yeah.
I really want those horses, man.
Yeah, me too. I want freaking Goten, and I want Zero, and whatever his horse is called. I forgot the name of his horse.
His horse is cheaper than Goten. God damn, Goten is like
expensive. $200 or $400
for no reason.
Those figures are expensive for no reason.
Yeah,
I mean, like they are ornate as fuck, but like still, they're action figures. What the fuck? Why is it they come out at $90 a pop? Like, really? Doesn't even make sense. It's like literally a week after they come out, they go up to $90, even though some of them have the same issues that other, lesser figures have, I'm just glad I got one because I've been fucking waiting to be able to afford one of those things. And like, I wouldn't feel so bad dropping, over $40 for the figure if you were getting more with it, because like with the Mezco Batman, you got a lot in that box.
Yeah,
a lot. Even though some of that shit didn't work, like the weird stand for his cape. You know what I'm talking about? There was this weird stand or piece you clip onto the stand that had these clips that clip onto the spines or the scallops of the cape, the points. And so it had bendy wire in it, so that you could bend the cape on that armature, and it would allow the cape to look like it's fanning out the way that it does in every piece of media that Batman is in. But like sitting there and trying to get all the points to actually fit on those clips was like next to impossible. You'd do it and it wouldn't stay because the thickness of the cape and the little plastic piece they put at the edge of each of the points, it wasn't thick enough. So you get it in there, you warp the plastic, and then it would just slip right out when you pose it. And it's like, what the fuck? This isn't worth my time. It should have been little clips, spring-loaded clips that you could actually clip onto the little rubber or plastic tips to hold it that wouldn't let go. You know what I'm talking about? Like those clips that, like, back in the day, our parents, when they smoked little, tiny little, manually rolled cigarettes, they had that the little roach clip.
Yeah.
Like
the alligator clips.
Yeah, it should have been like that. And it would have worked perfectly. But I don't know, man. They were on some other shit with that. So, I don't know, whatever. But I still felt like with the hands, the faces, the two hands that have the batarangs in between the knuckles, and the gun, the freaking hip, utility belt and all that shit, and just the way the figure was constructed and shit. You're getting a good figure for the money. It looks good, and I understand, like, presentation-wise, if I never want to play with him and I put him back in that box, I'll show that to anybody who collects figures, and they'll be like, holy shit, that's an awesome figure, But for the Garo figures, they look amazing. Don't get me wrong, but they like articulation-wise, there's limitations in certain things. So already that should knock down some money.
Yeah. It's better than the previous ones, though.
Yeah, it's way better.
That Tamashi Zero figure, you can barely move that thing.
For the earlier Makai Kado figures,
the earlier ones.
They were shit. Yeah, I saw every video I've seen of those. I was like, holy crap. What the fuck? For the amount of money that people are asking, you would think these figures can do anything.
Yeah.
And it's not the case. So yeah, I don't agree with the price at all, but the figure is still an impressive figure. And since this one is more of a renewal version and things are fixed, you kind of get more of your money's worth, but not anywhere near $80 to $100. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, they can kiss my you know what for that much money.
Hey, this is not a children's...
That's why I was happy when I saw him for $40-something on Nippon.
Shit, we were talking about price of figures, and I was like, yoink. As soon as you told me about it, I was like, yoink, 40 what? What else? I picked up Taskmaster, which is a funny little thing in and of itself. I picked up Batman and the new Batmobile. I think that's really it. I haven't really picked up that much because I'm not trying to pick up a whole bunch of stuff. Because I think Little Strident's got more new shit than I have. But what's coming out that you're looking forward to?
The Avengers figures from Figure Arts.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, because I know I want to complete the whole cast. So,
you've already spent some coin.
Yeah, I know.
Shit.
but I'm gonna get the Hawkeye. I'm gonna get the Black Widow. And they're doing a Black Panther, so I'm gonna pick that up.
I didn't even think about that. I remember us talking about it. Like, they better do it.
Yeah, and I'm praying they do Falcon too, because I'll.
What is with the hatred or the lack of attention that they give Falcon in
in Marvel Legends?
Marvel Legends and stuff. Like, he's been in what, 3 movies already?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, they're gonna do one for this year though, right?
Yeah, I mean, they did one finally, but it's like, why did they wait so long to do one? And it's not even the appearance it's not his first appearance. You know what I mean? Like,
current.
It's the current incarnation.
That's fine with me, because the current costume has the red in it.
Yeah. It's like multiple colors, which looks good. But I'm just saying, like, overall, he was neglected horribly. Like, they should have done a version from Winter Soldier. Then they should have done a version, because he wore that suit in Ant-Man already.
Yeah.
They should have done that. And then they should have done, like, a military, or not military, like a civilian version of the character, which they haven't done for any of them. They should have done that with Cap, him, and Natasha, and that would have been awesome. But,
Yeah, I know it's kind of unfair. Tony Stark's the only one that has a civilian figure. Like he's got 2 civilian figures from Hot Toys.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, Hot Toys did Cap. They did a Cap. The one that comes with the stealth suit has the civilian clothes too.
Oh, it does?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think they did do a Black Widow like that, and I think she came with it too. I don't know about Falcon. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure if they did those 2, they probably did it because Hot Toys is like, give me that guap. For real, they're not playing. They're like, give it to me now. They're like, China is here. China is here. Give me that money now. They're not playing because they do everything. I mean, there was a dude I used to watch on YouTube. His name was Danobi, I think it is, or Danaby, something like that. And he used to mostly collect Iron Man stuff. That's what I started watching him for because I wanted to see what all the Hot Toys Iron Men were like. And then I started watching other videos and I saw all the other shit he collected and I was like, damn. And he would mention figures that he hadn't bought yet. And I would go search those out on YouTube and I'm like, holy shit, like they made everything. Everything. Fucking, if there's a Tony Stark with a streak of gray in his beard, they made a variant figure that's like that, you know, with different clothes and everything. You're like, God, man, they did everything. It's crazy. Did you see the new Street Fighter figures? I think
I saw Bison.
It's like Bison and Ryu are the only ones.
Yeah, of course. They always do those too.
But
I mean that's cool, but I'm not buying them.
Yeah, no, I'm not either. I'm not. Maybe I might get Ryu. Because
That's how it begins. That's how it starts.
Well, no, for me, I'm already, because I have like all the other guys. I don't really even want more. Because I feel like Storm Collectibles is Capo Toys, but they just did that Kickstarter under the name Capo Toys because the designs look so similar, except they're using. I mean, I know it's the same character, so design-wise, obviously they would be similar. Yeah. But I'm saying like the construction of the figures looks so similar that it feels like they just were like, fuck it. Let's just use the money we got to do this, you know? And they did.
But they didn't hit their Kickstarter goal.
No, they didn't. That's why I'm like, oh, and like a year later, we have Street Fighter figures from a whole nother company that, like, Ryu looks almost the same, except he's not wearing cloth.
They got money from somewhere.
It's funny. But they look pretty cool. I mean, I guess it's good for folks who missed out on the soda toys.
Yeah.
I just personally want a Ryu, grown-up Ryu, with the white gi that's posable, so I
want Ryu that looks like Third Strike Ryu.
I do too, but this one looks close. He looks really close. I was surprised. I thought at first that he wasn't going to look the part, but they did a good job making him look the part. I don't know. I really want to see what this figure, what they're going to look like in the end. God, I hope I can find it before, without searching forever.
I've seen it. I already seen it.
Yeah.
On.
Oh, you saw Ryu?
Yeah, I saw Ryu and Bison.
Oh, okay.
Because I was impressed with the Bison because it's the Street Fighter V Bison.
Yeah.
He's got the trench coat and the gray sideburns.
Yeah. It looks good. I was surprised, man. I was like, wow, they actually went ahead and did something like pretty damn dope. I'm gonna finally this year get damn Ultraman. I don't know why I've the new Ultraman, the son of Ultraman that's in the cool suit.
Yeah. Are you getting the Ultra Act one or the?
Yeah, it's the only one that exists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told you should have got it. I remember you said you didn't want to at first, but.
No. I wanted him when I first saw it. It's just I couldn't find it anywhere.
Oh.
And then like finally I've seen it some places and it's been steadily. I guess it's not popular over here, so the toy is always $40 at with American sellers. So I'm like, yoink! I'm finally gonna get it. And then they did a second one that's Ultra 7, and I'm like, he's all done up in the exosuit kind of way, and I'm like, shit, I like that. I'm gonna have to partake because I don't have an original Ultraman yet. I got a small rubber one for or vinyl one for a little Strident, but I still haven't got one. I haven't had an Ultraman figure since I was really little, so I'm gonna go and look for him. I've been trying all this time to find Zafi because that was always my favorite Ultraman. He's the one with the studs going down his chest.
Yeah.
And for some reason, he's like $70-something, $80. I'm like, why Zafi? Like, it always seems like the one that I like the most is the one that is the most popular or something. So they're gonna try and take your advantage. So
get in those pockets.
I know, right? So yeah, I haven't pulled the trigger on that, but this year I'm gonna definitely get some Ultraman and finish up my original Kamen Riders. I don't know. That's really it. Oh, I got Ichigo. I forgot with the bike.
Oh shit.
That was one of the first things.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at it and I was wondering where that bike was from. 'Cause I was like, that doesn't look like any of the Maisto bikes.
Yeah.
I didn't see the back of it though to realize it was the actual Kamen Rider bike.
Yep. That's the first. That's the new Cyclone. So it's his second bike. Because what they did was the first Cyclone I think they gave to Nego when they started looking like that, and then they gave him a new bike. But I prefer the old one. The old one had the 3 pipes
On it,
to the back. And so at some point I'll get it. Maybe I'll just switch. I'll swap the bikes out. I don't know. I'll give Nego the new Cyclone and give him his old school one. It's just what I remember from as a kid. Like, because in the beginning he's like riding in the dirt and shit and doing donuts and riding up the steps and shit. And you're seeing like the big old pipes in the back. And I'm just like, that shit looks like it's fast. And the SIC version looks fucking amazing because they just took these two and kind of put them together. They took that one. It has the front like that and then the back like the original Cyclone with the pipes. It's fucking amazing looking. It's just, it's expensive, even though it has a shitty version of Ichigo. I mean, I shouldn't say shitty, but it's just like, it's like a revised classic Ichigo. So he just looks really weird. He's got weird proportions. And he's real skinny, but his upper body is huge. Like he's wearing football armor almost. And it just, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But I'm going to eventually find, some way I'll get it. I'm so mad that so many times I've missed out on, what do they, auctions or whatever on eBay for the pieces separate. Like people would sell them separately. And I missed out because I ended up seeing something else I really wanted, So at some point I'll jump on them and I'll try and get those. Just like I wish I could find, like when we were talking about Street Fighter, the Street Fighter Revolution, either Akuma or the standard Akuma with the gi hanging down, or the Ryu. Even though that Ryu his face is kind of weird. It's the grown-up Ryu, or Dan.
Good luck with Dan.
I'm just not paying that price.
Yeah, good luck.
They're too expensive. Yeah, so I kind of wrote those guys off. Like, fuck it.
For a time, I was trying to get Zangief and Dhalsim.
Me too. I heard they're shitty figures. Yeah. So I just was like, nope.
But plus the prices were never anything that I could live with paying to get them. So I kind of just gave up on that. I can't even really get Vega or T-Hawk for a decent price. Or
which version of them are you trying to get?
The soda.
I mean, which color?
Oh, for player 1.
That's why.
I know.
But for Vega, the thing with Vega is most of his look similar. Like the color schemes are similar.
With Vega, if they had one where it was
player 2 or player 3.
Yeah, if they had the one that was I want to say it was turbo. It's turbo colors. He had one that it was kind of like a grayish green and yellow. Like I always liked that one. That one. If they had done player colors of that, I'd settle for that one.
That would work. Yeah, with Vega, I wouldn't even mind. Same thing with Cammy. It's like some of those characters you're just gonna have to get what you can.
Oh, I got player 1 Cammy for like a really good price. I don't know. I was out of the package. But she came with all her stuff, the extra head with the and the little eyepiece.
Oh, okay.
And I got it for like a really good deal.
That's cool.
Which surprised the hell out of me, but I'll take it.
Exactly. You can't complain. Not when it's something like that where she's hard to find. For some reason, her price always fluctuates. She's always like in between the like $40 and like $80 range, and I'm like, why is she so damn expensive? I don't understand. I don't know if it's because she's a popular character or something, or because there's controversy with her all the time in Street Fighter games, or I don't really know what the issue is.
Yeah, I hated how they changed her face in the new game. to make her look more generic.
I know, right?
Because before she looked, I was like, okay, I could see an English chick that looks like her.
Yeah.
And then they changed her and made her look anime, and I was like, nah, man, fuck that shit. But it's what I mean. I'm not playing the game anyway, so it don't really matter to me.
Exactly. I gave up on Street Fighter. That's kind of why I don't care what they do, like the figures. I want to have a representation of the original guys.
I'm sick of all these lines. Like after Soda, then NECA had Street Fighter for a little bit, and they only did a few figures.
Yeah, they did like 4 figures.
Yeah, and then for whatever reason, they weren't doing anymore. And then it went to whoever's doing them now. Like, if they were to...
Storm Collectibles is also doing Mortal Kombat figures.
Oh, yeah, I saw those too, yeah.
That Goro
looks good, yeah. He comes with Kentaro's head. Yeah, if you knew for a fact that they were going to do all the characters, then I might start collecting them again.
Yeah.
Because they stopped right when I wanted to get DJ, because I only want the original... like 16 characters.
Same here.
And that's it.
Same here. I would like the Street Fighter 3 characters because that's my favorite Street Fighter game, but they didn't even get to do most. I think what did they do? 2?
Yeah,
if you don't
they did
count
Remy and
Ryu, and they did Remy and Ibuki.
Yeah.
And then you count Ken and Ryu and Akuma, I guess.
Yeah, and Chun-Li.
Yeah. But then I have the Alex from Resource. Like, it's just weird. They kind of fucked up when you think about it.
Capcom should have just let them keep doing the line.
Yeah.
They should have just changed whatever company that had actually printing the figures, mass producing the figures, they should just switch to another company. Because I guarantee you those bootlegs were coming out of that company.
Yeah. That's how Gouken got made.
Yeah. It's too bad, man. It's way too bad.
Yeah, those figures were dope. But, anyway. No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say I'm going to try and get more third-party Transformer figures this year.
Speaking of which, that's the other thing I found. I found Wheeljack, the Combiner Wars Wheeljack.
I was wondering what book that was on the chair.
Oh, yeah. It's Combiner Wars Wheeljack. It's not the greatest figure at all. I might not even review it, but, like, I always wanted Wheeljack, and I missed out on the...
Generations Wheeljack.
Generations and the Prime Wheeljack.
Oh, yeah.
Which I liked the Prime one, even though he was like a completely different character.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But like once you put the metal piece up, the face piece up, and if you put the sword somewhere else, give him to somebody else, it's pretty much still the image of Wheeljack. You know what I mean? So I was cool with that. But this one, it looks more like classic Wheeljack. He just looks like an older Transformer. Like when you have him transformed, he just looks bulky and squat and kind of... It's like they combined the two designs, the classic design with the Prime design, and it's just like, I don't know. But his vehicle mode, he looks pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean the vehicle modes on the Combiner series look good. It's their robot modes I just can't get behind.
But you know me, I'm never paying. I almost bought Warden because I found him for $80 or something like that. But then I was like, nope, because they wanted like $13 or $20 shipping, something like that. I was like, get the fuck out of here. He's not even that big. Like,
jeez.
I've bought bigger things. I've bought things in packages that are bigger than that, and it wasn't $20 from a U.S. seller. I'm like, you can kiss my whole ass, man. What the fuck is wrong with you? This shit made me so mad. But I like that figure. Warden and Leonidas.
Yeah,
I was looking
Effect
at them.
is always so expensive.
Yeah, I was looking at those figures and I'm like, God, of course the ones that call out to me are fucking expensive.
Yeah, because it's Perfect Effect, man. They're trying to get all your fucking cash.
But like everything I've seen, even when I watch them transform, that piece always comes off for some reason. I might just glue it down.
But isn't it supposed to rotate or something?
It does rotate, yeah. I might, at some point, I might have to take the plunge and get those guys because I watched them transform them. Everything felt solid. I mean, I probably won't use them for for Fortress Maximus or some shit.
Yeah.
But I definitely would get them and,
Which, Hasbro's doing a new Fort Max figure anyway.
And Warden can turn into the head for that.
Yeah.
I was like, shit, that's nuts. But I'm not interested in Fortress Maximus. Like, I was never that big into those. I mean, when I was a little kid, you want the biggest fucking Transformer. But, like, now I'm like, I don't care. I don't have anywhere to put them. And I have all the guys that I actually wanted. So, Warden would just be something on the side. Maybe he'd show up in a hardcore short or something as a mecha that they're driving or something. I don't know. Because it doesn't look like anything that I've ever seen. He doesn't look like a Transformer. Like, he looks more like a Gundam or something in the Gundam wheelhouse. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the Perfect Effect figures don't, they no longer have the Transformer aesthetic. They feel like something way more advanced than Transformers.
Well, the Warden is based off of the IDW.
Yeah.
Fort Max.
But some of those characters don't look that good in those books.
You think
Like,
so?
I'm looking at, I was looking through this book. They look like, so many of them look like shit in comparison to what the toy ends up coming out looking
Well, I
like.
mean, you can't. Well, that artist, Leon Vetti or something like that. I forgot what his name is.
Yeah, Livio
Livio
Rondelli.
Yeah,
Raymondelli.
yeah. Sometimes his art looks really nice in that style, and then sometimes you can tell when he rushed.
Yeah.
That's the art's not that bad in that, but like usually I would go off of Alex Milne.
Yeah.
Him or back when Don Figueroa was drawn for them.
Of course. Don Fig is like the shit. And,
yeah,
and Alex Milne, I knew him from DeviantArt.
Yeah. Yeah, he, like, those two are like, my favorite artists for Transformers. Nick Roche used to be good, but then he got a little too cartoony for my taste. But then, some of his Last Stand of the Wrecker shit looked pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as designs, whenever they do a third party figure, it's usually based off of Figueroa or Milne's work. So that Fort Max is based off of Milne because he had the tank treads and the X on his back and shit. It's
a dope ass design. I'm just saying, like, Transformers typically don't look like that. It looks too like Japanese, like. There's a specific aesthetic that Transformers typically have, where things are boxy, things are, how do I put it? Things are boxy, and, like, there's a certain shape that, like, every base Transformer has.
Yeah.
Just like when you look at a Gundam, it's like a Gundam looks like a Transformer wearing a skirt. That's the base body for every Gundam. They always have the big-ass hips, and it looks like they're, almost like they're wearing a diaper or something. Like around here. If it doesn't have pieces hanging like this, it'll be like squares.
Yeah.
Right there. You know what I mean? Transformers don't typically have that shit, you know? Even the feet, the shape of the feet and the shoulders, it's not a typical Transformer design. Like Transformers, they all look like the base Optimus Prime. Like his body, his basic body, with something tweaked, you know, bigger shoulders, bigger chest, smaller chest, you know what I mean? Whatever, but bigger feet. But typically they don't get, like, they don't get to that point. There's something about the boxiness of Warden that just feels like a super robot, like a standard Japanese super robot, like Gurren Lagann or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, or let me use a better example than Gurren Lagann. Like, well, God, yeah, he does have some of the same kind of parts as Gurren Lagann. The shapes of his part, like his knees, his shoulders, the way the pads sit, the boxiness of his chest.
I'd have to look at it again.
But I like it, don't get me wrong, but that's why I like it, is because he feels like a super robot. He doesn't feel so much like... Even if you changed his face, he could even fit in with like the robots in Full Metal Panic. Which actually I just ordered one the other day.
You did?
Mm-hmm. A Revoltech.
Yeah, I really wanted that Leonidas. I can't stomach that price. If I had the extra money to blow on it, I would.
Yeah.
But because I always wanted Leo Convoy, and just never got it.
Do you remember when we saw the toy at fucking KB?
Yeah.
Fucking, I can't believe that shit. When I think about it, like, we were so like, Beast Wars, man. And then now it's like, 20 some odd, or 17 years later, and we're like, fuck, we should have got it. That's how it goes, I guess.